Hello, welcome to First Kick Seahawks, the show where we prepare you for the first kick of every play by game day. And this is a reaction episode. A little late, but it's alright, because you know what? We had the 49ers ass on our plate, and we enjoyed that shit. It was quite delicious. Why? Well, there's a few reasons, but one of the reasons why that I'm most excited about is because lately, whenever we play against a team, whenever their star player goes out, we're like, this is our chance. This is a prime opportunity to take care of a team when they are down. And then you know what happens? They win anyways. So I want to talk a lot about that. I want to talk about satisfaction. Getting some satisfaction out of this 2024 Seattle Seahawks season, because Mr. Geno Smith has played this 49ers team 5 times, this now being the 6th, and he finally got a victory. Mr. Geno Smith laughed and mocked at multiple times by this Santa Clara team, and finally got a victory. Now, granted, we didn't have Nick Bosa. Tre'Davious Ward was out. Yeah, well, you know what? For the last few years, whenever we have gone into, or Santa Clara has come to us, there has been a lot of asterisks on some games. Right, last year, this 49ers team, which was stacked and Super Bowl bound while we were without our starting tackles, amongst other issues on the offensive line, they didn't say anything. Right, you play the teams on the schedule when they show up. Earlier this year, when we played the 49ers on Thursday Night Football, it was our 3rd game in 10 days, and half of our defense was injured. And we were on our 3rd string right tackle, and our running back was just getting back from injury, and 49ers fans were saying, well, you just got to play the games on the schedule. Well, you know what? 49er fans now can't say a thing. Yeah, they were out George Kittle. Yeah, they were out Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, Nick Bosa went down in the middle of the game. They were out Ward. Well, I got to tell you, Santa Clara fans, you got to play the games on your schedule, and you lost to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Nick Bosa does make a big difference, but we're going to talk about how some changes made to the roster may have made a bigger difference in this victory than the loss of a Nick Bosa and a George Kittle, and how we probably had a good chance of winning that game anyways. Now, obviously, some of the same old Seahawks showed up. We had some weird play calls, but of course, if you're on 4th down and you want to convert 4th and short and you don't do it, everyone's going to call it a bad play call. Still, putting in Charbonnet at fullback and then handing him the ball is weird, because historically he has not been good at that. Right? I'd rather we have an actual fullback on the roster. Running him behind Tomlinson, who has not been a good run blocker this year, was a little weird, especially considering our top 2 tight ends were not starting. Right? And one of the best plays we had that did lead to a touchdown was putting a center at fullback, which created a nice big running lane, which led to a touchdown in this game. And it was personnel decisions. It's the types of runs that we make, right? And on that point, Oluwatimi at center, we had the one bad snap, right? The one bad snap, and I even had in my belly, oh no, it's Connor Williams all over again. Except it really wasn't, because when Connor Williams snaps the ball, it goes well over your head. or well to one side or the other. It was just like a little bit to the left. And really, we should put that on Geno Smith, or maybe a communication at the snap, right? We have a guy who probably learned on Wednesday, hey, you're now going to be the starting center for the Seahawks. He's been working with Sam Howell. Now he's working with Geno. The timing's wrong. He still needs to be better at snapping. Let's hope it doesn't become a trend. But overall, when it came to him standing up against Fred Warner blitzes and everything else that this 49ers roster had to give us, even when Nick Bosa was in the game, he held up really well. Communication at the offensive line looked great. We talked about this before the game. The big question with Oluwatimi over Connor Williams is Connor Williams that bad that he decided to retire during the season because his heart wasn't in it and he was having health issues? Or was he going to be benched because he was having communication issues and he was playing poorly? Like, if you bring in Oluwatimi, is he going to start being able to diagnose defenders better? And as I noted, he's been working with Jason Peters, in the practice room, studying for the last 2 years. And he was known for this in college, being a really smart center. You put him in there, and suddenly we saw some plays there where Geno Smith and him are communicating, and they're shuffling the plays, saying, look, the cat's coming. They're going to overload over here. And Charbonnet does stay in there, and he picks that up, misses a couple, right? But they're at least communicating better, where you could see Connor Williams kind of not do a lot of that. Was he just on a really good Dolphins team? It kind of looks like that. You bring in Oluwatimi, health aside, was the bonus of bringing in Oluwatimi purely the fact that he is a better communicator, and that's probably the most important, if not the most important part, aside from, controlling the ball and snapping, part of being the center is communication. I'm excited because this is still a pretty good, dominant 49ers front that has been together for a long time, whether or not Nick Bosa was healthy. The big thing on the right side was Abe Lucas and Michael Jarrell. Abe Lucas, the question for me, because I'd been saying since the draft, is that he is not playing a snap until after the bye week. Sure enough, he started playing snaps after the bye week. He has a type of knee injury, which I guess is like a micro fracture in his knee, where it's got a type of degradation to it where it can truly hamper him for years and years. He could have either waited this year and then been better next year, theoretically, by I think it's 15% year one, 30% year two, 45% year three, that type of progression of improvement. That's how bad his knee is. You could never get his knee actually up to 100%. So the big question was, if he's going to be coming in after sitting out about 11 months and then come in and start right tackle, luckily he's going up against an injured Nick Bosa who had a dual oblique injury. Will he be able to hold up? He did look slow, but part of that has to do with endurance, right? Because he's not able to keep himself physically there. But I think the biggest contrast was when Abe Lucas went out and Michael Jarrell went in, first right tackle to fourth string right tackle, the difference was pretty strong. You could immediately see, Abe Lucas is not what he was his rookie year, but he wasn't a door being swung open like when Jarrell was in there taking snaps against Nick Bosa. Luckily, we weren't going up against Nick Bosa the entire game. It might have been different, right? We might have seen a play go here or there where we would have maybe not been able to convert. But just seeing Abe Lucas go out there and seeing the communication with Oluwatimi and the line made a huge difference. We talked about how when we went from Stone Forsythe, who at the time was literally the worst offensive lineman in the league, to Michael Jarrell. Well, he's not playing as bad as the worst offensive lineman in the league, so you could see the improvement. It was a little bit better, and it was just enough for Geno Smith to get a little bit more time to make some plays that otherwise he would not have, because he would have been running for his life when Stone Forsythe was in there. So if you have a Michael Jarrell and you bring in an Abe Lucas who is out of endurance, really slow, and then out of practice, is that going to be even more of an improvement? And what is that going to do for the chain reaction that happens along the offensive line? Paired with Oluwatimi's communication, if that's an actual thing, and it appears that it is, it felt like the pass blocking as a whole was just so much better than it's been literally all season. We haven't seen that many clean pockets, or at least I haven't seen that many clean pockets since, the Atlanta Falcons game? And granted, this 49ers team is injured, but they have a lot better talent on their roster than the Atlanta Falcons. This injured team may be comparable to the Cardinals, who we're going to get to later in the week. Just based off of overall experience and what they have to offer, although the Cardinals are a younger team. And so it was fascinating to watch, because if Abe Lucas can get his feet underneath him and his endurance together, and Oluwatimi can gain command of the center position and obviously secure that job, we might be able to not just run based off of the passing game, but actually be able to run block. It hasn't happened yet in this game. Let's take a look at these stats. Let's take a look at these stats, courtesy of Pro Football Reference. Kenneth Walker III, 14 rushes, 54 yards. That's not a good game on the ground. Zach Charbonnet, even worse, 4 rushes, 3 yards on the ground. This is not a good running game to speak of. But what's most interesting is that even though Geno Smith was sacked 4 times, he still had a good completion percentage. It felt like, and I don't have the exact stats, I'm going to look at it later in the week. It felt like instead of him being the most pressured quarterback in the league next to Jacoby Brissett and Drake May, that it was more like a normal game. Except we couldn't keep getting out of our own way. We had the 2 field goals, right? Which that's just red zone issues. We had the Oluwatimi snap that then put us in, 3rd and 22? We're not converting 3rd and 22. We did have the snap where I think Michael Jarrell was in at right tackle. We saw Geno have to boot out to the left to avoid pressure. He's trying to make something happen. He ends up throwing probably his worst interception of the season directly to a 49ers defender. It's the same old Seahawk tendencies that we have experienced all year, where we're just making dumb decisions that teams like the 49ers have not been making. As bad as the 49ers fans say that the 49ers are, they're not muffing their snaps. Brock Purdy is not necessarily regularly throwing it directly to the other guy or having his receivers have the ball bounce right off into their hands to the other players, which thankfully did not happen for us today. But if we didn't have just those two plays, the muff snap and then the interception, this game probably would have gotten out of hand for the 49ers. We, once again, just couldn't get out of our own way. It wasn't like the Bills game where we just got throttled. It was like the Rams game where we shot ourselves in the foot. It just so happens we weren't doing it as often as before. So on the offensive side of the ball, much, much better improvement. With one final note on the Abe Lucas, Michael Jarrell conversation, our offense played a total of 60 snaps. And Abe Lucas played 42 of those at right tackle. Interestingly, Michael Jarrell played 18. I am curious to see if next week against the Cardinals, if Abe Lucas plays a full 60, or if we continue that split of Lucas getting 70% of the snaps and then Jarrell getting the other 30% of the snaps. All right. Because again, it's his first week back. It's going to take him a while to get his endurance back together. Since we are now about a game and a half behind the division, it would be nice to have a fully healthy offensive line winning the division this week against the Cardinals, or at least tying for second, and then beating the Jets, beating the Cardinals again the week after, and then just, if that's what we need to keep Abe Lucas healthy on the team to make sure that we can win the division and then have a seeding position in the playoffs, let's do it, right? If it turns out that every time we put Jarrell in there to flip snaps with Abe Lucas, it just destroys our drives, let's not do it. But, that knee is a serious problem. On the defensive side of the ball, I actually do want to start with the 49ers. I posted this on Blue Sky, which most of the Seahawks community that was on Twitter has moved over to now. Nick Bosa, he played 26 total snaps this game. And again, that's out of 60. So he played 43% of the total snaps in this game. The last time Nick Bosa played the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, he played 68 snaps, which was out of 78 total snaps. So he played 87% of the game. That is quite a swing in the amount of time for their best defender to not be on the field. That is going to be huge. Right, if we suddenly don't have our best defender on the field, the other team's gonna feel that and cheer. But like I said at the beginning of this, in the past, when another team's best player has suddenly gone off the field, they found a way to beat us anyways. We have found a way to lose. So a win is a win. Be grateful that even though Nick Bosa went down and they had no George Kittle, we still won this game, because winning in the NFL is really hard, especially since this is an extremely experienced 49ers team. Okay. I want to talk about the linebacking core. I've talked about the linebacking core since the offseason, and I've talked about it all season long. Obviously, Jerome Baker, gone. Tyrel Dotson, gone. Tyrese Knight, I said he could be a lemon if he can't get off of blocks. If he can learn to get off of blocks and tackle without doing the hip tackle, he's going to be a really good player. Why isn't he starting? Well, probably because he just needs more experience. He'll start eventually down the season, probably in 2025. Well, he gets moved to Will after Tyrel Dodson gets dumped from the Seahawks and is no longer on a team. Very interesting to see that with how many exact snaps was that? I'm looking at the wrong one. With 51 total snaps out of the 63, This 49ers team could not run the ball to save their lives. Granted, Brock Purdy ran all over us in the first quarter, and then we stopped that. But Ernest Jones at Mike, Tyrese Knight at Will, and Dariq Hall, who also got beat by Brock Purdy at Sam, that might be the trilogy we need right there. That might be the 3. Perfection. They stuffed Christian McCaffrey. And the 49ers, yeah, they probably should have been running Jordan Mason, right? He did have a good day on the ground. He had 2 rushes, 13 yards. Christian McCaffrey, though, 19 rushes, 79 yards, 4 receptions, 27 yards. Granted, on that last carry, he got about 10 yards. It was in a 2-minute drill. For the most part, for a team that their whole thing is running the ball really well, and that was about all they could do all season, we stopped them. We have been getting run on all year long, and when we bring in Ernest Jones, we saw some improvement, but we were still getting gashed, and we couldn't quite figure out why. We put in Tyrese Knight, stuffed him again. Stuffed them again. It reached the point in the third quarter where I'm like, if they run the ball, they're going to get like 2 yards per carry, 3 yards per carry. Problem solved. The good test is going to be against this Cardinals team next week, because Kyler Murray and then Connor, they have a way of teeing off of each other, especially Curry, who scrambles. If the Brock Purdy scrambling, beating us thing is real, and he's beating on our linebackers, we're going to find out the hard way, right? But it looked like our linebacking core was back to form, because as we've all noted, our defensive line is setting up the rushing lanes for our linebackers. Our linebackers just aren't reading the lanes right to tackle, and they aren't getting there on time. Tyrese Knight's 10 split is so fast, and he is so physical, that there is no reason why, without proper coaching, he can't be a good run stuffer. And we saw that he was. So I'm very excited about that and what that means. The big thing, though, that kept this 49ers team alive, otherwise the game would have been a lot worse for the 49ers, was 3rd and long Jennings. He was their only real threat. He had 11 targets, 10 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. That one touchdown completely uncovered, right? It looked like there was some issues with the safety position who was supposed to roll over him, but mostly that was a complete buy-in on stopping the run. Man, he's been doing that to teams all year long. He's their only threat at the receiving core other than Deebo Samuel. They do have Ricky Pearsall, who got no targets to speak of. He did get 2 targets apparently, but there was no receptions. Why was it that every time that the 49ers hit 3rd and 11, I felt like they were about to gash us for a first down again? We can't be having that. Sticky coverage, right? Devin Witherspoon was given the game ball because he had sticky coverage all game long. He had his hands right there. And then, of course, we had Reek Woolen, who also had sticky coverage, but the ball was just beating him. After the game, it was noted by Mike Shanahan and then also by 49ers reporters that part of the way that the 49ers offense runs is hot routes, right? So they know before the snap where the hot route is going to be, which is Jauan Jennings' job. So they're going to throw the ball before Jennings has even turned around. And it involves trust and a lot of chemistry. And that is how he kept getting open, is he would turn around, ball would already be in his lap. So that's part Jennings knowing the timing. That's part Brock Purdy getting the ball exactly where it's supposed to be. And that's also part Shanahan knowing how to attack defensive backs. And if you time that thing perfectly, it almost doesn't matter how good your defensive back is, unless you get the hand there at the perfect time. The ball is probably going to beat the defender there. They just kept doing it over and over and over again on the hot route. It's very unlikely that another team is going to have that type of chemistry with the player. It does happen in spurts, but the 49ers have been doing that with Juwan Jennings all year long. Hot routes are just one of those things where you just got to be very deliberate about it. Part of that also is that with the play calling, some teams do have audibles. The 49ers, they have 2 audibles per play. So when Shanahan calls a play, depending on the coverage, Brock Purdy then can audible to 2 different plays. And he only audibled once in that game, which was just a head tap. That's their form of an audible. So, it's just the way that they choose to do it. And so whether or not that was a hot route doesn't really matter, right? He would just be probably throwing. Actually, no. The audible that he did was a pitch to Christian McCaffrey, if I remember correctly. It was a pitch to Christian McCaffrey, which went for negative yards. That was Julian Love blowing that play up. So yeah, it was mostly just hot routes for Juwan Jennings that was killing us on Sunday. Thank you for bearing with me while I figured all that out off the top of my head. So lessons learned going into this Cardinals game. As I said, what we needed to do to beat this 49ers team, which I said we were probably going to win if we did, was, can we stop the run? Yes, we stopped the run. Is Oluwatimi going to be an upgrade on Connor Williams because of his ability to communicate? So far, that's held true. I'm not so sure yet. We'll find out if that remains to be true. But yes, that was an aspect that helped us beat the 49ers. And then the third element is an Abe Lucas that's 75% of what he was as a rookie, that much of an improvement over Michael Jarrell. I think it's pretty clear that even though Michael Jarrell is an improvement over Stone Forsythe, he's no Abe Lucas, right? He might be 75% of Abe Lucas, but give me 75% of what Abe Lucas was as a rookie anytime compared to Jarrell. Maybe Jarrell will get better next year. Not right now, right? When you put a fully healthy offensive line with good communication together, it gives Geno Smith a better pocket. And maybe, just maybe, we can get him to stop throwing interceptions this year. Not all of them are his fault. I believe there was some stat that was shown after the game that he's in, let's say, bottom 10. Right, I'm going to put it in the range because I don't have it on front of me. Bottom 10 for contested catches, contested throws, right? He's not throwing passes that should be intercepted more often than other players, right? He's just been very unlucky on half of those where the balls are bouncing out. But because the interceptions where the balls are bouncing out are adding up, when he does throw a bad pass that is intercepted, that is his fault, it puts a big exclamation point on it, right? And makes it seem like a really big problem when it's not. I will point out, though, that he did it versus the 49ers this time. He did it versus the Rams last week. And he did it versus the 49ers on Thursday Night Football, trying to throw a ball to DK Metcalf underneath. Part his fault, part DK's fault. Mostly a really good play by the 49ers defender. Still not a good look. Against this Cardinals team, who I believe is leading the division, if we were to beat them, it puts us in contention for the head of the division. So let's take care of the football. Let's see if we can grow in the linebacking core as far as communication and continue to show this improvement in stopping the run. Because I can deal with one wide receiver beating us. If it's just one wide receiver beating us, but we're controlling everything else, let him have it. right? They're not going to score too many points. We can break on that ball. We can control that. But if they're running all over, then things start to unravel. And on the offensive line, let's show the improvement that we had against the 49ers against the Cardinals team, right? We can no longer tolerate having a bottom 3 overall unit. If our pass blocking improved, I want to see our run blocking improve, right? We should create lanes that even Zach Charbonnet can run through, right? If we can create lanes that Zach Charbonnet can run through, imagine what Kenneth Walker can do. And on another note, if Kenneth Walker is our best rusher, why are we giving the ball to Zach Charbonnet on 4th down? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here at First Kick Seahawks. I'm Camden McLaren. Thank you for kicking it with me. I will kick it with you next time.